God has borne with the nation of America, and in fact, all the nations and all the peoples in the nations for very long. But we have finally come to the point where, because of the time structure and because of the return of Jesus Christ, which has already kicked into motion, the earth will no longer be allowed to hide or cover sin, immorality, transgression, or outright rebellion against God. And as God was telling me that he will visit people in fire and with fire, to be visited in fire is a lot better, because when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were put into the fire, God was with them in that fire. God came to them in their extreme moment of distress, a moment that came upon them to take their lives. The Lord turned it around and made it a glorious miracle that was one of the building blocks in the heart of wicked Nebuchadnezzar, who continually acted like he didn't see God, when Daniel and people like Meshach and the rest of them were right in his face, modeling proof that God is a living God, that God was there and ruling with his people. And so to be visited by God in fire is better, because the fire of God, for instance, that is here at the Master's Voice, is the thing that sets many people who are going astray back on track. When the fire of God that is in this ministry impacts you, you sit and you think about your whole life. You think about the whole 50 years that you've been alive. You ask yourself, what have I been doing? Many people are practicing just a straw Christianity. And so when the fire of God in this ministry comes, it burns it up. And some people get offended, which is the wrong response. You can't be offended that you have built a straw house, a wood house. If you had built something with gold and silver, it would remain. Even if you built something in brass, it would remain. But if you have built a straw Christianity, a wood Christianity, and the mere preaching of a human being can burn it up, how will you stand before the everlasting Lord? When you stand before him who has been described by John the Revelator as all fire, what will you do? The man who is fire from the waist up and fire from the waist down. How will you stand before him if you cannot even stand before earthly preaching? What will you do when you stand at the judgment throne of Christ? And so God was saying that he will come to them in fire, and then he was saying he will come to them with fire. When God comes to you with fire, that part is definitely a hot judgment that not everybody gets to walk away from. There are people who have been judged by God in the fury of God, and all they are now is a footnote in history. The only people who remember them are their family and friends, and sometimes not even that. Another thing that happened is, when the Lord was telling me this, he gave me my own warning, which you will now hear. The Lord gave me my own warning about how he will judge me, and you will understand from this, or perhaps you will just act deaf and you will not, but you will understand from this my approach, which God gave me from the beginning, even before this prophecy. He will always give me reminders, and here is just one of the many reminders I get from God. I have sent you to speak to these people, to warn them of a great evil that I intend against them. I have told you to speak all the words that I will give you, and indeed you will speak them. There is a reckoning coming for every person that will determine their placement with me. But before I judge them, I will check to see, did you tell them all the words of my mouth, or did you leave any out? I will determine this first before I judge them. And if you told them, they will bear the full penalty for their sin. But if I find that you did not tell the full matter as I said, but have kept back any part of it for fear of them, the judgment will be on you and not them. And so there are those who come here and they complain that the prophecies are too graphic, and this makes no sense to the thinking adult, because the rapes that are happening out there are graphic. Someone is experiencing that rape in real time. And while I am not there personally, if the Lord comes and says, the wicked of the nations do this and that upon the woman, who exactly are you to tell me to what point I should speak what God says? What placement do you have in this earth if I am standing between you in your finite representation as dust, and God, who has no parents and no birthday and no death day? Who are you to tell me to what level of explicitness, so-called explicitness, I should give the prophecies of God? If the small 4-year-old child is being violated, and I am describing that I see elites gathered around the children, putting them on white cloths, so that as they violate the children in their backsides, the blood from that encounter falls on the white cloths. And then the elites take the white cloths and go away with it as trophies, as mementos. Who are you to tell me that something that happened in HD IMAX horror to the child, an explicit deed happened to the child? Who are you to say that you're too good to hear it? Even the child's parents, when they get back their damaged child, if indeed they are so lucky, even the child's parent is eaten up with questions until that baby can finally articulate, because he grows from age 5 to age 6, age 7, and then he is able to give speech to the damage. So in this country, social workers go to work and they develop the same iron soul that I have. They can hear what is happening in the homes of America. But the complacent, chipmunk-cheeked, overweight Church of America is so pristine and their robes so white that they don't need to know the details. They don't need to know the details of the human sacrifices taking place under their feet while they're spending money on junk at Walmart. They don't need to know the details about what the people they love. He's a good man. The people they love in the political spheres, the people they love in the movie world, the people they love in the music world. They don't need to know what those people do. And the reason that you don't want to know is because you don't want to have utopia shattered for you. How dare anyone tell you that America is not as peaceful and beautiful as you want to believe it is? How dare anyone drag you from your seat of Pharaoh, where you can survey your domain and say it's a great country. It's a great country here. Because once you find out that they eat children here, that thing tends to color away the greatness and it makes you upset. That's why you rage against the Most High, but you will not be successful in it. When God chooses someone and He intends to get the fullness of His investment out of that person will be put through their paces in such a way that that person becomes almost like a trusted guide dog that is so highly trained. Guide dogs, police dogs, they are so highly trained that at the sight of their masters, they go into readiness position. Only if the master says, okay, stand down, mascot, stand down, Ted, then the dog is relaxed and the dog is happy. But at the sight of the master, a dog knows, there's my blind master. I've been trained that my master can't see. And so those kinds of dogs are not playful. When people are out with seeing guide dogs, the owner always asks, please don't touch the dog, please don't feed the dog, please don't pet the dog. Why is that? They don't want the dog to be moved out of their training. But the church globally, worldwide, for the most part, has been trained by Satan. The church has also been trained by jesters and clowns and very, very slick wizards in the pulpit that have trained the church to see a God who has no wrath. They train the church to believe in a God who has no anger, to the point that the church, when you tell them that God is angry, they are shocked and offended, because what right has God to be angry? What is God angry about? And the reason that many people even genuinely have that shock is because that they don't know that there's anything going on for God to be mad about. It's the first they've heard that God is mad. But some of us, it's not the first that we've heard that God is mad. Some of us have been hearing God for years and years and years. In my case, before 2012, when God started speaking a particular stream of prophecy to me, God would always tell me and show me how people do not satisfy Him. Because people always want to give the most compromised version of Christianity to God. The cheapest thing that people have available, the cheapest amount of respect. They will respect the mayor of their city before they respect God. If the mayor says this and God says this in a prophecy, they'll go with what the mayor says. If the president says this and God says this in a prophecy, they'll say, no, but C-SPAN said this. I don't trust this prophetic word. Who's this person giving this prophetic word? God has trained me. And when you are trained, you look at your master. You don't look at the people around you. The landscape blurs to the back.